Parents were shocked when they found out how a fox paid them back for his salvation. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Storyist. Today, I will tell you a story about a young couple who saved a fox in the woods. Then, when they least expected it, the fox paid them back in a shocking way. Watch the video until the end to find out what happened. Today's story begins a long time ago in a remote village near a large forest. The center of the village was buzzing with activity on that particular day because it was a very special day indeed. Colorful streamers flew from the tops of the primitive buildings, and vibrant bunches of flowers covered every available surface. The village was filled with the sounds of singing and laughter. You see, on that day, 2 of the villagers were getting married. The whole village showed up to celebrate their union, and the party lasted long into the night. When it was finally over, it was time for the young couple to walk to the groom's parents' house, where they would be living until they built a house of their own. The path took them through the woods, so they walked carefully, watching out for snakes and other wild animals. When they got to the small wooden bridge that crossed a small river in the middle of the forest, the newlyweds heard a strange sound. It was something between a bark and a yip. It sounded like it came from something small. Curious, they stopped and looked around, trying to spot the source of the noise. Soon, they heard it again, and then they saw it. A flash of red fur out on the water. Looking closer, they could see that a baby fox was trapped on a rock out in the river a few feet away from the edge. The rock was too far away for the fox to jump to the riverbank, and they could see in the moonlight that the baby fox was all wet. "Poor thing," the young woman said to her new husband. "He must have fallen in somewhere upstream and ended up on that rock, and now he's stuck there." "Come on," her husband replied. "I have an idea. See that chunk of log over there?" He pointed at a large piece of fallen tree over by the riverbank. "Help me move it." The young couple quickly crossed the rest of the bridge. Together, they were able to lift the log and move it out towards the rock with the baby fox. At first, the fox backed away, afraid of the large piece of wood hovering near it. But then it took a running leap and jumped onto the log. The baby fox dashed across the log and jumped off onto the riverbank. There he stopped for a moment and took a long look at his saviors, as if trying to say, "Thank you." Then it scampered off into the woods and disappeared behind the trees. The young couple made it safely to the groom's parents' house, and they were looking forward to beginning their new life together. The next day, they started building their own house at the edge of the village, near the tree line of the forest. Day after day, the husband worked on the house. He gathered and cut wood from the forest and brought nails and tools from the village blacksmith. It was hard, long work, but the husband was happy to be building a home for he and his wife to start a family in. Plus, he often had a visitor. The small red fox from that night at the river would come and hang around the area where the young man was building the house. Sometimes the man would try and approach the fox and pet it or feed it, but the little fox would always run away if he got too close. It seemed like the fox was content to just hang out and watch the construction work. Eventually, the man gave up on bothering the fox. For some reason, he felt better when the fox was around. When the fox was there, the man didn't feel like he was alone, even though he was the only person working on the house most of the time. About a month later, the husband finished nailing the last piece of their new home into place. "It's all done," he said to his wife as he wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Just in time," she replied with a smile. Then she told him the news. She was pregnant. The young couple moved into their new house immediately, and at the end of the year, the wife gave birth to a son. Life was going well for the new family. The man worked as a carpenter in the village, helping the other villagers with furniture and house repairs, while his young wife stayed home to take care of the house and watch over their new baby. Sometimes they would catch glimpses of their fox friend. They decided that the fox must live in the woods somewhere near their house. Like before, they would sometimes try and feed the fox or get him to come closer so that they could pet him. But the fox always kept his distance from the young couple. But they'd soon get a closer look at the red fox, just not in the way they expected. It was a summer night much like any other. The husband was home from work, and the family ate a simple but delicious dinner together. Then, like they always did, the young couple put their baby to bed in his crib. It was warm that day, so they left the window cracked so that the baby could get a cool breeze while he slept. Then the two of them went and sat on the front porch, hand in hand, to enjoy the sunset together. They often ended their days like this, taking in the stillness and beauty of the forest before going to bed themselves. They were about to call it a night and head inside when something broke the silence. At first, they almost didn't hear it and couldn't make out what it was. But the sound happened again. They could hear it more clearly this time. It was a familiar sound, like something between a bark and a yip. "It's just the fox," the husband said. "Maybe he's playing with a friend in the woods over there." Then the sound happened again. "I don't know," the wife said. "It sounds like he's right beside the house, and the last time we heard him make a noise like that, he was in trouble." "I'm sure he's fine. He's not a baby anymore. He's a wild animal. I'm sure he can take care of himself." Then everything was silent again for a moment or two. "Besides, I don't hear it anymore." But then they heard a new sound, a very troubling sound, the sound of their baby crying. Without a moment of hesitation, the young couple threw open the front door and scrambled to get back inside. In addition to the crying, they could hear snarls and barks, and sounds of a struggle. The wife got to the bedroom door first, terrified of what she would find on the other side. But when she opened the door, she and her husband could see that the danger was past. Standing triumphantly in the middle of the room with a dead snake hanging out of its mouth was their friend, the red fox. He had saved their baby from the poisonous snake. "Well," said the husband, still a little dumbfounded, "I guess we're even now." The fox lowered his head as to give a slight bow. Then he darted up and out of the open window. They never saw the fox again after that night. They figured that it had been hanging around, waiting for a way to repay its debt. Now that the fox had thanked them for saving his life by saving their own baby's life, it decided to move on. Sometimes a small act of kindness can come back around and be repaid when you need it most. So don't be afraid to help out someone in need when you can. You never know when you may need help from someone else. If you liked this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And make sure you turn on the notification bell. We'll see you in the next story.